All right, everybody. This is paint.net. Um, Great image editing program. I've been using paint.net for years to explain and create different kinds of material for companies. When I say explain, I mean explain things using some form of illustration. Uh, you can use paint.net for pretty much anything. Your layout here might look a little bit different than mine because you can configure things to work for you. I don't have history because I just press Control Z and Control Y to undo and redo different things. For this tutorial, there should be an on-screen keyboard that appears on the screen and a little mouse that should be right next to my webcam. Um, both the two right now are a little bit laggy. I do apologize for that. And I am just trying to get this to show up on the Twitch stream for me. There we go. Didn't want to update. And it's just to make sure that things are working the way that it's supposed to, like to see the mouse moving. So that should be enough mouse movement to see if the mouse is working correctly. Anyways, paint.net. Good, it shows that it's working. We'll make stuff like this. This is a transparent image, and it has obviously no background. The nice thing about having something like that is you can have all sorts of different things going on behind the image that you've created. Perfect for websites. And this particular little image that I created here, I used it on our shop website. So this right over here that you see, this RJ's logo, that is a transparent backgrounded image, same as the text that sits there. Each one of these would be another one of these PNG transparent background images. Uh, yeah, they're useful. You can pretty much do anything and everything, and it gives it that professional look that you're after. Every single thing that you see on this website, every single picture, every graphic, all the different advertisements that I've made, all of them are using this program right here, paint.net. So, I guess we'll get into it. Start with a new canvas. New, and then change the width and height to correspond with what you want to work with. The canvas size I have created here is 500 by 500 pixels. It doesn't matter what it is, and Paint is actually, this paint.net program is really cool. So if you were to copy an image, say that you liked off of the internet, which we'll do right now, and wanted to work with that, it will give you a canvas size based on the image that you created. So if you wanted to keep the image the exact same way and get rid of a background, you could do that. So let's search something that we just want and we don't want the background for. Ice cream. I don't know why I want ice cream, but if I search for ice cream, I should be able to find something like this. This is perfect for a demonstration. And I'll do one that's a little bit more complicated to further illustrate my point at the same time as I do a simpler one. So we'll open the image in a new tab. Perfect. It's nice when it works out like that. None of this is planned. If I was to go File, New, you'll see that the width and height automatically have configured and conformed to the proper size of this image. On-screen keyboard is going to tell me, hopefully, that Control and V was pressed there. Honestly, I can't tell, but Control V is your paste key. So, Magic Wand tool, select an area, and you can change the tolerance so you can select mostly just what you want. That's an easy way of going about getting rid of the background. And if you wanted to clean things up around the outside, you just end up using the eraser and slowly erase away. You can hover just a bit onto the hand. That's another quick way of doing this kind of stuff. Maybe erase a little bit of the hand. And only do this in small sparing amounts. So say if, for example, I was to do this entire hand, do it all perfectly, and then at the very end I went like this, well, that means that when I press Control and Z, all of this and then everything all the way back down to here is one move, and one move that I'm undoing by pressing Control and Z. Other times when you see weird artifacts, I guess you could call them, of what was behind the screen or what was behind the object that we're going to be editing being a different color, you might want to change that. To do so, take some sort of selection tool. I'll usually use this cutting type of selection tool, and I'll go around the outside, the areas where it's mostly blue. I'm not going to worry about the cone for this example. And then I'm going to go to curves. Curves is a way of playing around with individual colors. So say I didn't want the red, and I went like that. All the red is now taken out of that image. Now obviously I don't want to take out the red. I want to take out the greens a little bit. And where I want to take out the greens is going to be based on experience. So it's really on the high side of this. And this takes time. This is probably the most time-consuming portion I find of my project. All right, let's take away the blue. There we go. There we go. Okay, not bad. That looks better than the blue that we had behind it. We'll use hue to do the rest. Maybe get rid of some of that saturation because it's supposed to be brown. There. Now obviously that's not perfect. Quick way of fixing that, I'm just going to go Control Z so I select the whole thing again, and then I'm going to go Control C to copy it. I'm then going to undo what I just did, so I have the color there already. I'm going to go Layers, add a new layer, and then Control V. So I have that odd shaped thing there, the odd colored sections. I'm going to make my brush a size that'll work best for this. Oops. And then I'm just going to click, 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 click around the outside. And that way, when you actually look at this, it doesn't really have as much blue to it, and the background is slightly corrected. So the background is not quite as blue as it was before. We can further play with this by, I don't know, going to luminosity and taking down the outside color while keeping the front there of this graph try and make it look right. Another one that I'll end up doing is I'll usually go to curves again, and I'll take this to red, green, and blue. I'll keep the center there, but I'll take the end down. In doing so, it just makes that whole thing a little bit more gray. Takes out some of the color. There's a ton of tutorials out there. This is just a quick beginner's guide to editing. The next thing that you've seen me do there is I double clicked on a particular layer. I can play around with transparency along with blend mode, which gives me the option of scrolling through different kinds of effects and things that will end up doing to the particular image that is behind that is behind the layer that I'm working with. Normal, transparency, all that kind of stuff. Okay, let's blend these two together. Say that we're done. Actually, we're not done. We're going to create one more layer. We're going to go effects and blurs and glacier blur, and I'm just going to go 2. I'm going to take this and put it behind. Why? All it does is it just ends up softening the outside edge so it's not so jagged. Okay, I'm going to create another layer. I'm going to put it behind that just for the time being. And I'm going to make a red box, make sure that my rectangle selected and that this is draw filled shape. There we go. We have a background behind this. You'll also notice again when you do that that there's little pieces that might stand out that you don't really want. So you can just go over that again with the eraser. And then if you want to make some of these edges not look so aggressive, you just do that to smooth them, to make them kind of transition better. Time-consuming process, but for a free program, it does really good. And you can make some really good stuff if you've got the time. We'll get rid of this because we don't need it. And then if we wanted to, we could go File, Save As, save this to the desktop. The best kind of thing to do is to save it, like I said, as a PNG file. Paint.net file format is one of those formats that is useful if you want to keep everything as a movable layer thing, but there isn't anything apart from the editing program itself that uses paint.net format. So for anything that you're going to be using online, I export every single one of my files as a PNG image because it maintains that high crisp quality that you're looking for. So that's getting rid of a background. Okay, and canvas size. Let's say that you're making something for a business, a logo. First thing that comes to my mind for whatever reason is hockey. It's also like baseball. The Oilers. It's almost like it knows that I'm from Edmonton. What should we use? Perfect. Here we go. Let's take this image and we're just going to work with this. We're going to turn this into like a logo for a company. Oops. What you seen me doing there was just undoing because the first time when I tried to size this down, I let go of the mouse and then I tried to continue to size this. And when you do that, if you're not careful, like I go like this and then I select it again and then I move it like that, that's where that image then ends. So say I was like this and then I went to select this and I wanted to pull the rest of the image. The rest of the image is gone now because it was off screen. So pressing Control Z to back up doesn't always allow me to do that until you've backed up enough so that you can actually select that entire image. Holding Shift while you drag an image like that will allow you to select or scale the image in a uniform fashion, which is something you want to do if you're doing this kind of thing. You don't want your people and objects to be, I don't know, scaled in a weird kind of stretched out shape. Okay, we've moved from the magic wand tool to this selection tool. I'm holding control down as I do the selection so that I can add to the area that I'm selecting. It's kind of the same as if you're going to if you're going to select multiple items from the desktop by holding control and clicking, 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 clicking. You can get all the different objects that you're trying to select in one go. If for some reason I don't like what I did, all I have to do is press Control Z to undo that particular selection, things of that fashion. These are basic rules that apply across the board, not just in this image editing program, but to most things with Windows computers. If you're using a Mac, I can't give you much advice. There's an instance of me using Control Z to undo. Yeah, because Macs have their own kind of operating system, and some programs are not available for them. Just going around the whole image. I don't have to be perfect. I can if I want, but it takes a lot of time to get a really good, nice, crisp edge. I'm a big advocate of doing everything in sections. So what I'm doing right now, I would almost say if you're new to um, delete the background, if you wanted to delete the background prior to moving on and using this control click kind of method that I'm doing to select an entire image, just to make sure that you don't have, um, I don't know, issues further down the road and misclick or do something that you don't intend to. It can be very frustrating learning um, graphic arts and image editing uh, if you're kind of new to this kind of thing, just because you'll take all this time on trying to make something perfect and then you'll do something else, and because you didn't take the small little steps in between and make sure that you deleted this, you deleted that, or you selected things in a small area. Like I had explained earlier, um, when I scrubbed over something like that unintentionally, you really want to make sure that you do everything in small little sections. Take a small section there, take a small section right there, another small section right there, that kind of thing. Do that over the entirety of your picture rather than risking making one big one that you happen to mess up just at the end. And I've done that. I've made that mistake before. You learn from those kinds of things, but I mean, even today I still mess that one up because I just happen to have those momentary lapses of attention, we'll say. Human. Being human. So the entire time that I've been doing this, my finger really hasn't come off the control button. And you can see that by the on-screen keyboard. I'm going to really start to speed this up here now because this is just a demonstration and I tend to take this kind of stuff a little too far sometimes. You'll also notice that I'm making big round like D shapes as I do this. The other reason why I do that is if you take a look at the edge here actually will cut in a angle when you do that, whereas if you're drawing, um, normally when you're drawing you'll end up getting those chunks, those individual pixels, as opposed to the angles that you get when you make these D shapes. That never used to be that way in the earlier versions of Paint.net to my memory. And you definitely want to take full advantage of that, because having those um, angles and working with those, uh, yeah, it can make your project look a hell of a lot better than if you were to do it all individual pixel by pixel. There's also other kinds of blending techniques, things of that fashion. I'm not overly familiar with them, but they have particular names like bilinear and stuff like that, and that's how the image itself or the image program itself will uh, actually select stuff when you're doing your work in the project, if I remember correctly. As it comes out of the box is actually the best way of using this program, or at least that's what I found. You don't really need to play around too much with any of the settings. You're pretty much go right when you end up installing it. Express installation, there really isn't anything fancy to it. Okay, I think that we've pretty much gotten everything that we need now. I'm just going to select all this extra space. And this is where having a graphic artist on hand for your projects and things like that is really nice. So if you have somebody like me or anybody who does this professionally, I'm not saying I do this professionally, I will do logos for people for their companies at a reasonable rate, I believe. It's what I feel my time is worth. Uh, but I also am a big advocate of educating people so that people can do this themselves if they so choose. Because really, the skill itself is not that difficult. It's time consuming, yes, but it's not it's not a ridiculously hard skill. You do have to be careful how far you go when you're doing this. Control mouse wheel up, control mouse wheel down, zooms in and out. As I'm doing this, I'm actively trying to figure out what the next step is going to be for us. Um, as far as this editing tutorial is going to be, how to use this program, all that jazz. Um, I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to do the same thing as what I just had explained there, because this is a company logo that I'm going to be making here, at least for the demonstration of this video. And we'll take the player's name and number and keep that white, and maybe even the stripes on the jersey, and then make the rest of it an outline or a uh, black and white black image, or yeah, you guys get what I'm trying to say, I hope. Cool. We now have hockey stick, wicked background, it's transparent, so this in itself is good enough. A lot of people would be like, oh, that's cool, right? Because because you can do so much with this. If I wanted to, I could be really strange and I could put our uh, random player into the outdoors, and we might do that just because it'd be funny to see. Like he's, ooh, actually that's an idea. Hold on here. Let's go. Outdoor rink. Ba, 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 ba. Here's a funny one. Yeah, I'm gonna use this. Open image in a new tab because these people are all looking this way, which is perfect. Okay, let's paste this. Let's keep the canvas size. And we're actually just gonna expand this. There we go. You guys are looking like, what the hell is this guy doing? It's an unneeded celebration. Oh, that's funny. What else could we do? I want one actually. I want an outdoor rink that's mountains. There we go. That's awesome. Okay, cool. I like that a lot more. Let's say, for some reason, we actually want to increase our canvas size because what we're working with just isn't the right size. You see that there's a white box here. Sometimes it takes some figuring, but there's a white box actually on the side of this, so we'll use our magic wand tool to delete that. There we go. And we'll reposition our player. Oops, make sure we've selected the right layer off to the side. Same thing, we've got a little bit of artifacting going on here. And around the player we definitely do. And down here by his leg, that's another one. That was what I painted in, but I guess I forgot to attach that layer. So let's make a layer behind him, because if it was in front of him, that wouldn't work. And then let's put these two together. There we go. I fixed them. And there's a little bit of stuff that needs to come out of here. So we'll get rid of that. There we go. Nice. Out of place. Very out of place. Quick thing to do, just like I did before, where I scale something down. If we do that, it blurs the edges, so it's a quick little trick to make things actually blend in better. Same as rotating an image just ever so slightly. It makes those pixels kind of just change ever so slightly. Now, curves, to go back to this. We're outside, we have a little bit less red light. So we'll take that down just ever so slightly. Out in the cold, make it look a little bit more chilly. There we go. Oops. Again, just gotta make sure that you follow those rules. Do everything in small little steps so you don't end up being in the same position as me, where you're just like, shit, I just messed that one up. Make this look like a painting. There we go. Let's bring that back to there. Okay, curves again. I just want green and blue this time. Let's reset that. We don't want the red, because every time you do this, I forgot to say the other colors, like the whites, or sorry, the red one that we just did is going to try and do it again, and we don't need that. Okay, we'll just bring the blue and the green down to match where that red was, and then bring the rest up top there. Here we go. Nice. That actually looks a lot like it belongs there now. Brightness and contrast. Cheap way of doing what we just did. There. And then normally what I do is I go over the whole thing with a much larger brush just to fade it. Get rid of those sharp edges. Nice. Cut down on the shine. That's one way of doing it. Cool. So that's a way of, I guess, putting somebody into something that they were never in. Oh, we forgot one thing, guys. We need to make another layer. Play with the points. And then we need to additive, lower that. You don't need to use additive for this. We're going to do one more, we're going to duplicate it, and this one we're going to go effects, and the same trick as I do all the time. Give it a blur. And duplicate that one more time, put the two together. This one right over here. Let's actually bring that up a bit, and then we'll go like this with the eraser. And bring the hardness down. There. Nice. Love it. I love it. So silly. Okay, off topic there. My bad, guys. Um, so let's say that what we wanted to do was we wanted to just have this player by himself. I just did that because I wanted to still keep those effects for later. And make a logo for a company or something of that fashion, as I said earlier. Let's take all of the white areas in this case, because we still want some creativity in this. We want something that's a little unique. Take the glove, take the stripes on the sleeves. We'll ignore the name because I don't want to actually have to go and remake the name, and I feel that I would if I had to do this. Okay, we've selected the area that we want. If we really wanted to, we could do it manually, which is a pain in the butt. Takes a lot more time. If we wanted to go over this, like this is the nice thing. The background doesn't exist there because this guy is just his own individual piece of paper, his own layer. So I could go over this entire thing and then off onto here, and it would still just select this area because there's nothing here to select. So if I was to select over here, right, and I went off of the page, that's okay. That's acceptable. For whatever reason, it did not select this area right here, so we'll select that manually. Cool. Okay, nice. We'll copy this, Control C. We'll make another new layer. We'll zoom out and paste, and the reason you do that is say that I pasted it here. That obviously didn't paste where I want it. I want it to actually paste right over top of the guy's back. I've selected layer 6 before I pasted. That's important to remember. And we can check that just to go to make sure by turning off these two layers. And you can see that he's still very much there. Okay, put the player back. What we're going to do with the player now is we're going to go curves, and we're going to take all of these all the way down to make it black. I mean, you don't have to. You can go somewhere in between if you wanted to. You can also go lumosity, and you can take that all the way down to make the player black as well. The next thing we do is we go effects, black and white. And now we have white for everywhere else. And we can also do the same thing as we did with the curves and make that white that way. Now, obviously, when you look at this, it doesn't look very professional. It looks like everything is very chunky, and nobody likes chunky lines. So what you can do is you can change your brush size again with the mouse wheel and paint over the whole damn thing. Quite a bit of time, very consuming. I'm going to leave the pants actually that way. Go like that to connect those, make those look a little smoother in that area. Same around the jersey. Now that other trick that I showed earlier about me using the blur tool, that's a useful one. You use blur or glow, both the two do the same thing. You can end up getting that feathered effect around the outside of anything. So these lines, I could do the same thing. I could select just these white lines make a new layer for these white lines and then go glow with that so that it kind of, I don't know, gives that same kind of illusion. And I'm actually just going to paint that out because I don't remember what that is and I don't really think it matters too much. We'll actually just demo that thing that I just talked about right there on the number 88. There we go. Cool. Take the 88. We will copy that again. Make a new layer with it. Then what we'll do is we'll go effect, and instead of using Gaussian blur, we're gonna go photo, and we're gonna do glow, and we're gonna take this radius down to 1, and repeat. Good. Now what we'll do is we'll duplicate, and we'll blur all those together, blend all those together, all those layers. When you do that, it gives it a nice crisp look to the outside, so that's nice. Not crisp, I should say feathered look. That's what I'm actually looking for. And that's it. Could turn off these backgrounds. Could put everything together on this guy, and then we could just copy this. We can go File, New, after that Control-C copy, and paste. And then what we could do is we could go Layers, add another layer, take some text. Give it the weird name of the company. Pick a font from the many fonts that you have installed. If you don't have a font that you want and you want to get something that looks a little different, like a lot of people probably won't have Campus A, this is a font that I picked up off of dafont.com, made by a ton of different companies and individuals who produce these fonts. You can do the same kind of cool effects to a text, we'll say, as you can to a image, because they are just all essentially bitmap images. What we'll do here is we'll copy this much of this, Control C, Control C, delete, layers, add another, paste. We'll make this now black and white, and then we'll take this last section right over here, and copy it. Now we'll delete it, add another one, paste it, and then change the color of that with, red, green, and blue. Turning off the red, turning off the blue, turning and taking all that stuff down. And then taking the blue and putting the blue way up there. And I gotta make the green just a bit bigger and brighter too. There we go. And then the in-between, the gray, we'll use luminosity again to make it white. There we go. And then I'm gonna go back down to the red. I'm gonna go black and white. I'm gonna go curves with luminosity, and bring that all the way down to the bottom. And then effects, same thing as always, blur or photo and glow. 1, effect repeats, and then we're actually just going to do a blur too, just to feather that whole thing out. And maybe repeat it one more time. That's good. Combined all those images, and there we go. We've got an awesome company name with some very quick effects done to it to give you 3 different colors. We can do one more thing here. In hockey, you have markers for center ice and each one of the rings. I could do additive. No, we'll use multiply. And then I'll take this as my outline and delete that from that. If I wanted to, something like that. Just as an example that you're limited by your imagination. Same thing, if I wanted this then as the actual logo, put it on a website, I go File, Save As, and then PNG, name it whatever I want to name it. And then all of these layers would end up combining at the end. Again, if I wanted to prove a point, I could then say that there's nothing behind this guy except for a big red blob and a big ripe egg and a little bit of mold on that egg. So it would work. To further illustrate that point, in case it wasn't clear that there is no background, let's open image in a new tab and copy this image. This is going to be blurry because the image itself is far too small. But it's okay. It's just to demonstrate a point. We would duplicate this, turn this one off. I always duplicate my images just to make sure that if something goes wrong, I still have a backup. And nice thing that this program has is they actually have a rotation tool, so I can go like this and pivot my image. So now it actually looks like that would be the sign that you would see up there. And if I really wanted to, I could do some selection work like this and move this over just to get rid of the words. There you go. It's easy. Very easy. Let's get rid of that layer and get rid of that layer and put our big sign right back up there. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the gist of everything. I went through how to cut out a particular person. You could do that for any object. I went through creating a logo for a company. I showed some basic effects. I showed you how to change particular colors of an object to make it look like the item belongs in the particular environment that it's supposed to go in. What you do with all those types of things that I just discussed is completely up to you. Um, there is other tools that are in here, paintbrushes, line tools, the line tool I use frequently, so many different things. That's all that photo editing is right there. There is really nothing to it. And this is actually a pretty cool picture. This would be something that I think I'd see in somebody's wall. The only thing that this needs now is it needs some work done to the background, to the sky, just to make the sky look a little bit more ominous. I'm going to get rid of this too, right there. Make this whole thing look a little bit more blue. Yeah, but that's it, guys. I hope that this helps with photo editing and learning how to edit photos. It can be fun, as I said before. It can also be very frustrating because it can be very time consuming and it can be irritating if you don't know what you're doing. But stick with it. If you stick with it, you'll get good at it. And if you get good at it, then you can make money at it, or you can just end up doing it for fun. And that's what I do. I do it mostly for fun and to help out people. Every tool is a little different. So if you're using Photoshop or a program of that fashion that's produced by like Apple or another software manufacturer, you're probably going to get some slightly different kinds of results. Same thing applies with that. Just take your time, learn the program. It's definitely well worth it as far as a skill is concerned. You'll never have to pay another photo editor to do your pictures for whatever it is that you're doing, because you'll have the skills to be able to do it yourself. It's something that served me well over all the years that I've done photo editing. Okay, cool guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully this makes it onto other kinds of platforms. Bye.